Hello, it's Alex and welcome to Hey Little Thrifter. I'm back with another horror film top 10 and today I'm going to be talking about my favourite horror films from the 2000s. So 2000 to 2009, and as always these are just my favourites, not necessarily the ones I would consider the best, although I do think some of these fit into both categories. And also, as always, I'm just going to be talking about these in year order as they were released, rather than ranking them in any way. You know, they're all up there in my favourites. So putting these lists together of my favourites from each decade has been really fun and difficult at times, but it's been really interesting to see exactly which films have made my top 10 of each decade and see, different styles and themes within that. And one thing that was obvious from this decade's list is that there is a lot more world horror cinema here. So yeah, really cool to see that, and I think there's a really good range of films here, all of which I love and would highly recommend checking out. So let's kick this off with the year 2000 with American Psycho, directed by Mary Harron. This is based on the excellent novel by Bret Easton Ellis. It's about an investment banker in the 1980s in New York City who is a serial killer. And as the story progresses and his urges get more and more and he starts to unravel, is he really committing all of these atrocities, or is it all in his head? Such a great book, such a great film. I think this does a really great job of leaning into the dark humour of the story and the characters while still being bloody and brutal and impactful. It has a really great cast, and Christian Bale is the absolute perfect choice for Patrick Bateman. He plays him so well. Okay, next up from 2001 is Mulholland Drive, directed by David Lynch. And yes, we could definitely argue whether this is even horror or not. I don't know if I would even really class it as horror, but it is one of my favourite films from this decade, and I think there are enough horrifying moments here to qualify being on this list. Plus, I make the rules, so it's staying. This is about a woman who moves to Los Angeles to be an actress, and she meets another woman who has been in an accident and has lost her memory, and that's really only the briefest premise for this film, and only just the tip of the iceberg really as to what this film is actually about. It is really dark, disturbing, and this kind of confusing fever dream, as you may have seen in some of Lynch's other films. This is definitely one of my favourites of his. It's a film that you can get more out of each time you watch it, and even, you probably need to watch it more than once to even begin to try to understand what's going on. Again, really great cast, and Naomi Watts is, just absolutely phenomenal in this role, and that dumpster scene still gives me nightmares. Okay, next up, another one from 2001 is Session 9, directed by Brad Anderson. This is about a group of asbestos removers who are working on an abandoned mental hospital, and this one is super creepy, super atmospheric. It's a really great slow burn, and the longer these guys spend time in this building, the history of the place is revealed, and the place really starts to affect these characters. It has a small but really solid cast, and the location is really amazing and like another character of the film as well. Next up from 2002 is Cabin Fever, directed by Eli Roth. This is about a group of friends who go on a trip to a cabin in the woods, classic setup, but while they're there having fun and partying, etc., someone else stumbles upon their cabin and passes a horrific virus onto them, which then works its way through the group of friends. This movie is a lot of fun. I think it's really entertaining. There's some great comedy moments in here. There is some really great gory effects. Yeah, I think this one is just a real blast, and I think Eli Roth, it seems to be a kind of like you love him or hate him kind of director. And yeah, while I haven't loved all of his films, Cabin Fever and Hostel are definitely two that I really love. And I remember years ago messaging him on MySpace. So this is, yeah, dating pretty well when this happened. And he messaged me back and it was super nice. And yeah, we had a couple of messages back and forth. I just love the fact that he even took the time to message me back, and he was also really lovely. So yeah, I will always have a soft spot for Eli Roth. I don't care what anyone says. Okay, next up is another one from 2002. This is My Little Eye, directed by Mark Evans. This is about a group of 5 20-somethings who put themselves forward to be part of a reality show. And this one isn't going to be on TV, it's actually going to be broadcast on the internet. So they all move into this house in the middle of nowhere, and there are cameras set up all over the house that are filming them constantly. And it's hard to say much more about this one without spoiling it, but of course, something goes horribly wrong. And yeah, it's really great. I think this one is really underrated. A, I think not that many people have even seen it, and B, of those who have seen it, I don't think many people like it, but I, for whatever reason, really love this film. I think it's great. I saw this when it first came out and really dug it, and I've seen it a couple of times over the years thinking it wasn't going to hold up to my initial memory of it, but I've still thoroughly enjoyed it each time. It is pretty low budget, and you know, some of the acting maybe isn't quite Oscar worthy, but I think it does a really great job with what it has, with this small cast of characters and like pretty much just one location, and the fact that it uses this idea of reality TV and the internet, which when this came out in the early 2000s, both of those things were relatively new and definitely not as common as they are today. So yeah, I think this was a pretty unique and original film when it came out, and yeah, while it might seem a bit dated now because the technology has changed so much, I think it is still really, really effective. I think the dynamic between the different characters works really well, and how that changes as the story progresses. And also I just love where the story goes, because I was totally not expecting it. I absolutely think more people should check this film out, and if you have seen it, I would love to hear your thoughts. Even if you hated it, I would just really like to know. Next up, from 2003, is A Tale of Two Sisters, directed by Ji-woon Kim. This is a film from South Korea, and it's about a family. There are 2 teenage sisters, their father and their stepmother, and there's definitely a strange vibe going on within this family, and quite a kind of sinister undercurrent. It has a bit of a supernatural element and some really, really creepy scenes in here that, yeah, have definitely stayed with me over the years. I think there are other Asian horror films like Ringu and Ju-on that have become a lot more famous than this one, but I think this one is absolutely up there with them, if not better. It's really beautifully shot, and yeah, just has a really great atmosphere and slow burn to the story as things are slowly revealed. Again, it's one I can't say too much more about because it would get spoilery, but highly, highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Next, from 2005, is Wolf Creek, directed by Greg McLean. This is an Australian horror film, and it's about a group of 3 friends who are backpacking around Australia, and One thing I really like about this film is it does spend quite a lot of time with these characters. We really get to know them. You know, there's friendship, there's romance, there's adventure. It's, yeah, just a really good time. But at some point they have the misfortune to meet a character who is excellently played by John Jarratt, and yeah, things just go horribly wrong. Yeah, when things go wrong for these characters, it goes really wrong and really wrong fast. And yeah, the rest of the film is basically following them as they try to survive. I feel like this was pretty popular when it came out, but like I don't really hear many people talk about it since. Admittedly, I haven't seen the sequel, nor have I seen the TV spin-off. If you've seen either of those and think I should check them out, let me know. If you're looking for something bloody and brutal in the Australian outback, then this is absolutely one to check out. Okay, next is from 2007. It is The Orphanage, directed by Juan Antonio Bayona. This is a Spanish horror film. This is about a woman who, along with her husband and their son, move into what used to be her childhood home. It's this huge building that used to be an orphanage. While they are settling in, the young son meets an imaginary friend who he is playing with, and some dark history about the old orphanage comes to light as the story goes on. This one is really beautiful and has this really great supernatural element to it, and it's also like super emotional. Like, I'm about to cry just thinking about it. It's really well done. Again, like Wolf Creek, I feel like this one did get quite a bit of attention when it came out, but I don't really hear too much about it recently. So yeah, this is a really solid, really well put together film, a really great story. I think it's pretty unique, and yeah, if you like supernatural stuff but haven't seen this one, then yeah, definitely put this on your watch list. Next, from 2008, is Let the Right One In, directed by Thomas Alfredson. This is a Swedish horror film, and it's based on the novel by John Ajvide Lindqvist. Novel and film are both absolutely excellent. This is a pretty unique vampire story, and it's about a young boy called Oscar who is bullied at school. He doesn't have any friends, and yeah, things are pretty shitty for him. And he meets this young girl who moves into the same apartment building that he lives in, and they form a friendship. But as their friendship develops, he finds out that not all is quite as it seems with her. This is, yeah, again, another really beautiful film, and one that I find really emotional. I love the friendship between Oscar and Ellie. I think it's, yeah, a really great kind of coming of age tale. We have this friendship and, you know, hint of romance, I guess. And yeah, we also have this really amazing and unique vampire element to the story. Yeah, this one is dark, disturbing, moody, atmospheric, all of that good stuff. And last but not least, from 2009, is The House of the Devil, directed by Ty West. This is set in the early 1980s, and it's about a college student who is looking for a part-time job to help pay her rent, and she stumbles upon an ad for a babysitter required. So she ends up being hired by this couple to babysit while they go out for the evening. So she has this house to herself for the evening, and she orders pizza and yeah, is just kind of hanging out and starts to explore the place. Yeah, this is another one I don't want to say a ton more about, because if you don't know where the story goes, then I wouldn't want to spoil it, but let's just say there's a reason this is called The House of the Devil. This film is so good, and it has great characters, great story, and yeah, a lot of great atmosphere, and it's a pretty low budget film as well. I think it does a really great job with what it has. I also think it does the throwback 80s style really well. I think there's a tendency for that to get a bit cheesy and not really authentic, but this one does a really good job with that, and yeah, it pretty much feels like it could have been a film that came out at that time. So those were my top 10 horror films from the 2000s. Let me know if any of these are also your favourites, or please tell me what yours are. I would love to chat about it in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you again in my next video. Bye!